God's greatest gift, a testimony. After years of struggling with infertility and several failed relationships, I prayed that God would bring me someone with whom I could start a family. I fell in love with a woman, my first same-sex partner, and I had to laugh when I looked back over my prayer request to God. She also wanted to have kids, but never found herself in a stable enough relationship to bring a new baby into the world. Shortly after we were married, we decided to try assisted insemination. We found a fertility clinic in Columbia, South Carolina, about 2 hours from our home in Myrtle Beach. We spent countless hours looking at donor profiles and finally booked our in utero insemination procedure. Afterwards, there was a 2-week waiting period until a pregnancy test is performed, the longest 2 weeks of my life. Procedure, 2 weeks, blood test, 24 hours, the call. It was negative. A month later, we tried again. Procedure, 2 weeks, blood test, 24 hours, the call. It was negative. Just before our third procedure, the doctor explained that if the attempt failed, we would need to discuss other options. No pressure, right? I felt set up. I felt all the hope in the room drain like air let out of a balloon. It was sabotage, whether intended or not. Procedure, 2 weeks. Blood test, 24 hours. The call, nothing. It was time we found a new doctor. My wife found a fertility specialist in Charleston, only an hour and a half from home. After several months of healing and 3 heartbreaks, we started the process from scratch. This new clinic felt right, so again we were hopeful and optimistic. We selected a new donor and scheduled our IUI. Procedure, 2 weeks, blood test, 24 hours. It was negative. A couple months later, we tried again. Procedure, 2 weeks, blood test, 24 hours, the call. It was negative. And again, this time the doctor herself performed the procedure. It felt different for both of us. Procedure, 2 weeks, blood test, 24 hours, the call. The doctor said positive, but with some fine print she termed cautiously optimistic due to the low hormone levels. Over the next week, blood test after blood test, we watched the hormone levels decrease, signaling an impending miscarriage. On Thanksgiving, the pain set in, and we traded turkey and dressing for a trip to the ER and confirmation of our loss. I was done. Our resources were dwindling. My faith was long gone. My wife said we should try one more time, for God told her He would bless us with a child. That's great, I yelled, but He didn't tell me. A couple months later, sitting in church on a Sunday morning, I heard God through the very pastor who performed our marriage ceremony that we would conceive in March of that year. So I fell in line and we scheduled our 7th procedure. None of our preferred donors were available, so we settled on number 38. Procedure, 2 weeks, blood test, 24 hours, the call. It was the entire nursing staff wishing us congratulations. It had worked and her hormone levels were through the roof. March 10th. October 31st, we welcomed our miracle baby boy, Charlie Bishop, overseer of men. Throughout our entire journey, my wife and I kept seeing this story online. The original source I could not locate, but I pulled this excerpt from a blog on WordPress.com. An elephant and a dog became pregnant at the same time. 3 months down the line, the dog gave birth to 6 puppies. 6 months later, the dog was pregnant again, and 9 months on, it gave birth to another dozen puppies. The pattern continued. On the 18th month, the dog approached the elephant questioning, "Are you sure that you're pregnant? We became pregnant on the same date. I have given birth 3 times to a dozen puppies, and they are now grown to become big dogs, yet you are still pregnant. What's going on?" The elephant replied, "There's something I want you to understand. What I'm carrying is not a puppy, but an elephant. I only give birth to one in 2 years. When my baby hits the ground, the earth feels it. When my baby crosses the road, humans stop and watch in admiration. What I carry draws attention. So what I am carrying is mighty and great. God gave me more than the gift of motherhood, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. 1 Corinthians 13:13.